This is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency space. 5 years ago, deep in a bear market, a group of traditional finance experts founded BitGet, and they've been building ever since. Now, with 20 million users worldwide, BitGet is committed to helping users trade smarter by providing a secure one-stop crypto investment solution with copy trading, future trading, and spot trading. Your security is their priority, and BitGet has one of the largest protection funds in the industry, with US $300 million to cover potential trader losses from unforeseen events that are not due to misconduct from the user or platform. BitGet wants to inspire everyone to embrace Web3, so if you're new to crypto, learn more at the BitGet Academy with free blockchain courses, crypto guides, cryptocurrency trading strategies, and more. Or for the experienced investor, trade smarter with daily access to institutional-grade crypto market intelligence and trends analysis with BitGet Research. I've put links to BitGet Research and the BitGet Academy in the show notes, so get amongst it or simply go to bitget.com. Thank you to BitGet, and now it is on with the show. My guest today is Simon Chadwick. Simon is the co-founder and CEO, I think, at Eclipse Fi, a modular launch and liquidity protocol, which we will learn about today. I think it's across Cosmos and various up-and-coming layer twos. But welcome to the show, Simon.
Hey, how's it going?
Going great. Hey, it's good to have you here, Simon. Look, let's do what we do at the beginning of the show. It'd be cool, Simon, if you could introduce yourself, really. Like to hear a little bit about your personal and professional story, what you've been doing in the lead up to getting involved and co-founding Eclipse Fi.
Yeah, for sure. And cut me off so I don't ramble too much because I can go on a little bit. But I'm Simon. I'm CEO and co-founder of Eclipse Fi. And yeah, I mean, my background, I'll start with my background in crypto. I've been in the space since 2016. I found Bitcoin in 2012 and mined it on my computer, but I never stuck around. But I mean, in 2016, went through, ICO craze, 2017, through the bear market, survived that bear market, trading on BitMEX, nostalgia. And then, kind of came into, DeFi summer and, then the lunacy that everything happened. And I actually got involved quite heavily in the Terra ecosystem. So I found Anchor in early days, and I was like, this is cool. And I love the thought of like decentralized money. And so I kind of got involved. I got involved with helping to build a dApp application on Terra. I was part of the team there, and I was helping to grow that. And then I essentially pitched TFL, Terraform Labs, on this concept of a learn-to-earn platform that would onboard new users into kind of like a Quest kind of experience, and then users could kind of learn about the Terra ecosystem. And it was pretty cool. They funded about $1.6 million for it. We're building out, about 200 videos over a year. They're going to be shown in the National Stadium in DC. There were like all these beautifully animated videos. And then Terra collapsed, right? And that kind of rocked my world quite heavily. And, lost a lot of personal net worth, but also, my project had just kind of gone, and I wasn't really, it was very hard to bring it back after that because it was very high funded. It required a lot of funding, and it also wasn't the market. The market shifted. But there was a team on Terra that I'd been sort of advising with that were building a launchpad on Terra, and the tech was really good, but the marketing and everything else wasn't so great. And I actually had the opportunity to just take it over when the Terra collapse happened. Because they just kind of some of the guys bailed on it, and I was like, okay, cool, I'll take it over completely. So I took it over, moved it to Cosmos, and hit with a hard realization that building a launchpad in a bear market with almost no funding, and as the market was getting worse, was maybe a terrible idea. But I'd validated the idea around a lot of founders. But I went through, survived through the bear market heavily, trying to pivot, adapt, to do everything I could. But during that whole entire time, two things happened. I learned a lot, a hell of a lot, get tough skin as well. And I built some incredible networks. I essentially spent 2 years building very, very, very deep networks across the whole space. And all of that kind of led to the evolution as things kind of got better. We went through a few kind of mishaps, including Say Network, we were one of the first dApps building on Say, and then everything there kind of, what happens. And and so we had to adapt a lot, and we had to get kind of very creative and innovative. But then, everything kind of shifted. And all these pieces all these seeds that we sown, and all these things that we put together all came together in one hit. And Eclipse Fi now is in it's a very different position. And I'm really excited about what we're building.
Yeah, fantastic. And yeah, fascinating story, Simon. Obviously, when Terra collapsed, it, kind of set off a chain of events that really would crash the entire crypto markets. And look, I guess everyone's net worth took a hit, but particularly people such as yourself who are, obviously really deep in the Terra ecosystem. That must have been a pretty tough times. So, but obviously you're resilient and you kept going. Why did you, kind of coming out of that, why did you decide that Cosmos was, I guess, the ecosystem where you wanted to build Eclipse Fi on, and kind of, I guess, move your focus to, and just maintain focus during what I'm sure was some tough times?
Very tough, man. I'll pull up my journal article after, when we get into the bull run or after the bull run, and just look at all the days where you're just like writing pages of like, what the hell am I doing? That's entrepreneurship in a way. But I think, for Cosmos, when I was back on Terra, there was a very disconnect. So Terra was kind of siloed, even though it was a Cosmos chain. And then I was, there was the one thing that happened with Terra, which was interesting, was that there was a time where Terra, the Luna, and the coin actually took away from the dApp ecosystem in terms of there was Luna liquidity, but in terms of other liquidity, everything got really sucked out by Anchor and by Luna. And so when I was on Terra, I was looking at the Cosmos ecosystem, and interesting enough, Cosmos didn't really have that issue of the liquidity being sucked up at the time, because it was isolated app chains. And so, kind of everything was doing well. Like, the NFTs were doing really well, whereas some of the NFTs on Terra weren't doing as well. There's a couple doing really well. And, I was like, okay, cool. Is there an extra source of liquidity here that we can tap into that's not being tapped into? And so I helped to pioneer kind of bridging Cosmos and Terra, because they were using different wallets and very separate. And, after the Terra collapse happened, there was a couple choices. Could have gone to Arbitrum, which was quite interesting. At the time, Arbitrum wasn't what it is now, right? And there was a couple other options on the table, and Cosmos seemed to have still a vibrance and culture and things going on. And, there was still some liquidity around at the time. There's still money in the market. It seemed to be the most apparent choice, that having the same code base as Terra, that would move things to somewhere where it doesn't require a huge amount of rebuilding, which, to be fair, it was maybe an oversight, because there was a lot of rebuilding required due to low infrastructure. So, because it was low chain infrastructure, I think people overlooked how much work Terra had put into building the foundation, the ecosystem, in terms of infra. And so building on Cosmos was quite challenging due to not really having that. But that happened, and it was a painful time, because building in Cosmos during the bear was very it really took some guts, because it just didn't have the liquidity in the users that ETH has.
Yeah. No, that very much makes sense. But the only way for different chains, different ecosystems to catch up with the likes of the ETH community is simply to put your heads down and keep building. Tell us then a little bit, Simon. Just kind of explain at a high level is fine. Just to begin with, a little bit more about what Eclipse Fi actually is, and I suppose what the goal is, what the vision statement is, if you like.
I think for Eclipse, the biggest thing of everything is aligning quality projects with users. Aligning projects with quality users. I think that's something that we've always wrestled with a little bit, and in the crypto space especially. And I mean, there's obviously marketing. There's how does a dApp go to market, right? When you've got and it's two things, because you've got coins and then you've got applications, and typically they're done in separate, and sometimes they do it well together. But the issue is you're a dApp building a really quality project, and you've got a token as well. Your token may be a utility or a governance token, and you want to use that token as well to attract users into your ecosystem. But then you want to figure out how to launch your token. It's really, really hard as a founder. There's so many, I guess there's different options going to a centralized exchange, and you're typically going to get charged massive fees and have insane unaligned terms for this, right? For the most part. And then you go to like IDO launchpads that have a very, very select mandate that will only launch like quite low cap coins that are likely to pump or do well. And that's not always beneficial or translate to value to a protocol, right? If you're looking to build a community, sometimes that may be groups that just participate in IDOs, and they may just, flip your coin, right? And not really become part of your community or become a user. And so there's a kind of a void in the middle. I mean, the airdrops are kicking in and things like that, but there's a void where there is lacking this kind of place where adapts can go, how do we funnel launches into user value? And so we're building an interchain launch platform. So we could call it a launch pad if you like. It's morphing into something even more meta than just a launch pad. There's some stuff next year coming that's really start of next year that's coming that will make it something completely new and different. But the concept is that we really wanted to bring different types of launch and distribution mechanisms to kind of align early communities of projects. So we have things like lock drops and liquidity bootstrapping auctions, different types of like auction mechanisms, as well as normal IDOs, which is just a part of the way that we look to have projects launch and distribute to the users that they want to attract. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, Launchpad is a great name for what you guys are doing, even if, you do want to kind of, I guess, evolve and expand out of what people think of as a Launchpad today. But, Launchpads, they kind of have, we've seen sort of varying degrees of success because, some Launchpads, the incentives aren't always aligned with other users, right? So I guess it's up to the Launchpad itself. In this case, you guys, Eclipse Fi, how do you, decide on the kinds and types of projects that you're willing to support and help launch, and how do you kind of vet them?
Yeah, I mean, this is actually a very difficult puzzle piece to solve for, because there's two tracks to this. Like, a deal flow is really, really important. So having very high quality deal flow, which we do get a lot of heavy, like solid deal flow in, and you do get like really big projects, and then you get kind of maybe medium projects that they're not as proven, but they may be community based. Like there may be like a Terra project that comes out of, but back in the day that is building, and they become a great success because the community liquidity is there. So it's a little bit challenging to kind of weigh this up, I think, when you're vetting as a launch pad, because everyone expects you sometimes to launch those big projects that everybody's talking about that's super hyped. But I think there's also a space for the launching of those projects that maybe they don't have that massively vibrant community from day one, but they're building a solid product that's going to send it. So there's always this bit of a juggle when you're looking at this kind of stuff. I mean, there's definitely a strong vetting process in place in terms of like where you get your deal flow is really important. Like who's connecting it in, who are the backers, who are the people behind it. Because it's typically, especially if it's in a bear market, it's gone through some pretty heavy VC scrutiny. But that's not always aligned either, right? Like that's not always, some of these like big projects that they launch at such a high multiple that it's not really a community aligned project anymore. So it's always that juggle between finding projects that are kind of can kind of like help to kind of bring community on in the early stages and the earlier stages, or at least the lower stages, versus projects that are large. But I mean, we look at a lot of factors. I like to look at even things like founder motivation and things. I think is really important. Like why is this a problem to be solved, and why is the founder so passionate about solving that, right? Because I know for myself, like I was so passionate about this that I ran through brick walls to push through the times where I had no business continuing, and I had this vision, and it was not going to leave me alone, right? And so due to that, I did some insane things, and I got us out of some insane situations. But that's I like to see that, because that's what I see a founder is they've got that insatiable drive and passion, and it's going to go a long way. But there's obviously all the other factors and metrics that play a part.
Yes, indeed. And I guess one of those factors is the Eclipse token as well. So I was looking on your roadmap, Simon, said you're doing an IDO launch in this quarter, I think, for Eclipse for
7 days.
Is it in 7 days? So all right, well let's
7 days, man.
You better cover off that and talk about the tokenomics, or how all that ties into what you guys are doing.
It's the most insane thing ever, man. Like the last few weeks have been absolutely mental. I mean, you can imagine, like we're pioneering a few new things as well that like a few new solutions as well that hadn't been done, and we're launching our own token on our own platform as well as a couple others. And we brought in a partner, a really cool partner called ZK doing ZK KYC. And it was the first time this was tested under strain. It was like fully anonymous KYC. And the first time this solution was tested under this level of strain. And we've got like team members like full time in the chat, just like problem solving for 3 or 4 days as people can't do their KYCs and everything breaks. And it turned out that because what it does, it uses ZK proofs and it mints a soulbound token. I don't know why we didn't realize that gas was required. And so everyone came to the chain and realized that you need gas to do this KYC. It's been absolute chaos. But yeah, I mean, 7 days, it's been blowing up. I think we're on 6,500 whitelist right now. And we've kind of not even put our foot on the gas just yet. So I think, it's going to be a pretty insane 24 to maybe I've got about a day and a half till the whitelist closes. But the Eclipse token is actually getting a pretty big revamp in Q1. At the moment, it's mostly used within tiers to get access to launches and ways that we can kind of vet, the quality users or the long-term aligned users. We've got like a pretty cool time lock staking model and stuff that helps with that. But around Q1, it's really going to turn into, I'm not going to drip too much alpha, but it's going to actually turn into an incredibly powerful governance token. And I don't mean a governance token like just, oh yeah, vote on this. It's going to have a lot of influence and sway on many, many fronts. So that's really the direction we want to take it. We want to make it an incredibly influential asset. And we actually recently acqui-hired a platform that helps us to kind of enable this goal. So I see, over the next couple of months, people start seeing really the kind of chess play that we've been mapping out behind the scenes around what we want to do with Eclipse. So the biggest utility is the I guess the power and influence that token yields, as well as access to launches and different benefits within the ecosystem.
Interesting indeed. All right. Well, thank you for that, Simon. I guess like if we zoom out a little bit, pretty interesting times across crypto, Simon. Bitcoin has had a pretty strong year, really, and certainly a strong Q4, and looks to be potentially, leading crypto out of the bear market and hopefully into a bull market next year. Got, Bitcoin ETFs looking likely, Bitcoin halving. So lots of positive catalysts there in terms of, I guess, Bitcoin. But what else do you see happening, I guess, like, deeper out into other ecosystems such as Cosmos, what you guys are doing at Eclipse? Where do you think like the next wave of, I suppose, mainstream users comes from? Where are we at in terms of that cycle?
Yeah, it's a little bit challenging. I've got some thoughts that, maybe the first like quarter or Q2 next year may see pullbacks of sorts. I mean, none of us can really predict this, right? Just the way that we could predict how quickly this would change and go crazy. I mean, I would say like this year, Bitcoin's been strong, but the funding market dried up massively. I think that the worst almost was probably September. We just saw like such a trough. Like I was talking to dApps and founders that have insanely like, I was introducing projects to VCs and these projects were like super strong. I know the teams and nothing was getting funded, like maybe some very large infrastructure plays. So it was really like pretty disheartening for a lot of founders, and it turned around pretty quickly. I think like, obviously we're starting to see the rotation happen even a little bit now. Like one is leading alts and things are getting crazy. People just wanting to jump into everything, right? We're seeing launchpads leading this kind of narrative now, and they're being really, really strong, which is perfect timing for us. It just turned out to be kind of a wonderful timing. But yeah, I mean, Q1, Q2, the work's not done. I mean, for us, it's just really about positioning and capturing territory. We're going to build through whatever the market does. I think we will see it slow down. I don't see Bitcoin going as crazy, but I could be completely wrong and it could completely send it to Valhalla. But let's see what happens. I'm obviously liking it because when you've been through 2 years of bear market, it's pretty brutal and it's a very weird change.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. All right, well, as we start to finish up this part of the podcast, Simon, again, just for people that are listening and if they're not already aware of Eclipse Fi and, they're keen to learn more, even just as a user or maybe as a developer looking to deploy, what are some of the resources that people can look into? Where can they go to begin to get involved more actively?
Yeah, for sure. And I realized I forgot to answer half your other question. So best place is like coming to socials. I mean, Telegram is good. Twitter as well. We're pretty kind of active on that. We've got Docs and Discord, but we've got a pretty good mod team. And we've been putting out some good material. So they're good places to come and learn about Eclipse and stay in the kind of loop. It's definitely going to be exciting to stay in the loop over the next couple of months because we're going to have a lot of really, really cool things dropping, and you'll definitely be hearing more about Eclipse Fi.
And what you said you didn't, you only answered half of the previous question. So please feel free to keep going, Simon. What did we miss?
Yeah, about new users, right? I think we're starting to see there's a couple metas, right? We've got GameFi really start to research, and I think there's been, I've never really been in the GameFi space so much. I've got a lot of connections in that space, but I'm not a gamer really myself. But I do see kind of like these games, like games take a couple years, right? A good game takes a couple years at least to build, and start to see guys that have been building for quite a long time start to kind of research. I think the other one I'm really excited about, and we're definitely working on this at Eclipse behind the scenes, is account abstraction. And to simplify account abstraction, maybe for those that don't fully understand, or at least let's talk about like the ideology of what can be done with account abstraction or smart accounts. The user experience right now for crypto still sucks. Like for DeFi, you're not going to get your uncle come in and download MetaMask and sign keys and then get a ledger hack and all this sort of stuff, and it's just not going to happen. But I think with account abstraction, it's really cool because it allows you to set up like permissions within an account to abstract away some of those UX things. So like for example, having an account that you don't have to sign transactions like with session keys while you're in it, or can do transactions on your behalf, or do streaming payments for different things, right? So really, I see apps really abstracting away a lot of those like back-end blockchain pieces to create experiences for users that resemble Web2, where they can come in and do normal things and not have to like be a rocket scientist to know how to navigate stuff. And I think that's really where a big wave of next users coming in, especially if there's applications that target them. I think Terra is starting to go in this direction really well with certain products where they abstract away user experience, and that's something we really want to do in the future. It's difficult because there's always those scalability issues with blockchains. I think Ton's going to probably do really well. I think with the Telegram integrations and integrating those into kind of real world apps, and kind of going more the all-in-one route. So it'll be interesting to see. It's hard to pick a winner. I think Solana as well is going to have a bit of a resurgence. Well, it is having a resurgence. I'm very excited about like the resilience of the guys there. I'm just excited for the future ahead in general.
Yeah, very well said, Simon. Thank you for that. I think, we're on behalf of the listeners and myself, we're probably excited for the future as well. But I think it's probably time to go to a very quick break, and then we'll come back. We'll finish off. We'll have some fun. We will run Simon through the very famous Crypto Conversation hot take round. Back in 1 second.
All done.
You mean the toast?
Something tastier. I've just copied an elite trader on BitGet. One click, and it's done.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't have to sit here manually spying on the moves of smart money and crypto and copying them. I just have to click once, sit back, BitGet does the rest.
You are so lazy.
It's about working smarter, not harder. Copy it until you make it.
Hands off, gains up. Start copy trading on BitGet.
All right, we are back, and I'm with Simon Chadwick. Simon is the co-founder and CEO at Eclipse Fi. Yeah, kind of like, launch and liquidity protocol for token launches and various, dApps, innovation, everything happening across Cosmos. Simon, I like to finish each podcast with a quick round of rapid fire crypto conversation hot takes. Are you up for it?
Let's do it.
Let's do it, Simon. I'm just going to run some questions at you. Just want your kind of honest hot take style answers. I think I know what you'll say for the first question, but it is, where would you say that you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
Multi-chain for sure. Yeah, DeFi. I love DeFi. I love the concept. I love the concept of DeFi and what it can achieve at its highest potential. I think that's a good answer as opposed to now versus
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, what would you say, Simon, is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
That's it. Yeah, that's an interesting one. What is my firmest conviction crypto opinion? I mean, there's so many of them, right? I'll say probably that the future will be account abstraction. I think that's definitely a strong. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer one, but I think one of my firmest convictions is that we won't onboard new users with the current way that things are, and there will be a new wave of entrepreneurs that come in to kind of lead it into a very different direction, like we saw with the web in the early days versus the late days.
I like it a lot. All right, well, Simon, Bill Gates famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. You know, as a blockchain builder, you'd be very familiar with that kind of idea, I suppose. But with that in mind, 10 years, it's a long time in crypto. But, anything you like, Cosmos, DeFi, Web3, what is it?
I'd compress those time frames pretty massively, to be honest, like in crypto, massively.
Well, what does it look like in 10 years' time?
I don't know what it looks like in 10 years' time, but I can tell you that things happen so much faster than you imagine. It's not just bull markets or bear markets. Like, in my experience in this space, it's like these seeds that you sow, like literally there's times where I'm like building in the bear market and I want something done. I think it's going to be done in a month and it's done in 5 months. And I'm like, what the hell? But then you get to you realize that when you hit a certain point, you can get so much done in 1 month, and so much can happen in short compressed time frames. So it's kind of messy with you can see, I think about this even the last month, how we've got so much has happened, and we got so much done in the last month that I can't even, got more done in the last month in some fronts than we have the last 2 years. But actually, the reality is it was all done over 2 years. It just, the fruit didn't happen until now. And so I think that's really the gist of this thing, is that people think that momentum is something that just comes, but it's built over the foundations that you build over a very long period of time. And so I think, building those foundations through the slow times so that then you can kind of bring it all together and do it. It's a little bit, it's weird for people because it's like a plane taking off on the runway. And it's really slow for a while, and then it just gets absolutely ballistic, and people are like, wow, that came out of nowhere. But actually, no, the work behind the scenes was setting the scene for that. So, yeah.
Yes, indeed. And of course, the flip side of all this, Simon, is a quote by William Gibson, who famously said that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. With that in mind, can you think of an example of the future being here right now, but most people aren't aware of it?
In terms of blockchain and crypto in general, I think people vastly underestimate how much crypto is already starting to be integrated, I guess, across financial systems, or will be. I think it's going to move a lot quicker than people anticipate. And I think the other piece of the future that is already here that, us crypto people realize, but the crackdown on banking, the banking clampdown, I'm from Australia, and we had this recently where one of my co-founders, I think, sent a couple $1,000s to a centralized exchange, and they shut down his whole entire account. And it happened to many of my friends, where literally just doing a regular transaction meant that the bank literally sunset all their accounts, and it took them 4 days to get them back, right? And I'm talking to someone with family, kids, all this, loans, everything, right? Fully life, has a wife, and everything gets shut down in a click of a finger, without even going, hey, let me check with you to see if this is fraudulent first before I shut down your account. So we're seeing that the future is now for this, and it's only going to get worse. And I think that's sort of a very strong proposition that most people in the real world don't think about, because it's not at the top of their mind. But when that starts affecting you, everyday Joe, pretty real to home, that's when I think the realization will set in.
Yep, 100%. Very well said again. All right, time to get weird for a second, Simon. If we zoom out, what do you see as the long-term future for the human race? Do you see dystopia or utopia?
Both. We're in a constant state of flux, man.
Yes.
We're always bouncing between dystopia and utopia, where shit gets worse at the same time as it gets better. It's the law of the universe in some shape or form, and it will always cycle. So we're probably going to go into some pretty whack times at some point in the near future, and then we will rebound in some capacity. So it's hard to know. I don't know. We could have a massive world war, and it's kind of crazy for a couple of years, but let's see. I can't predict that in the future.
Yep. All right. Very well said again, and I very much agree. Time to finish this off, Simon. Finally, what is your favorite science fiction book, film, or TV show?
Oh man, that's tough. I always liked. I love Westworld. I love Westworld.
Yeah.
That's a mental mind cage, which I kind of dropped off at the end. It kind of got a bit weird, and it was like you could have probably stopped after 2 seasons. But I did love Westworld. It was a very, very, very well made, and it also really challenged you mentally to think in some kind of weird way. So I love that stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think I only watched season 1 of Westworld, but I really did enjoy it. But it's amazing how shows like that was literally, I don't know, what, about 5 or 6 years ago, 7 years ago, maybe, season 1, and all that stuff that seemed so sci-fi and futuristic, just with developments in AI in the last year, it just seems more relevant and closer than ever, doesn't it?
That reminds me of Black Mirror. That's another one I really love. That's the close to home show. That's the one where you're like, oh shit, yeah, that's the future is here. It's like that could happen tomorrow, right?
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
Hey, this has been so fun. Been a pleasure talking to you today, Simon. Thank you so much for coming on the show and spending some time with us. Just finish off by shouting out your Twitter profiles, anything like that. And again, just explain at a high level, what Eclipse Fi is and why people should take a look. Yeah,
so Twitter handles Eclipse Fi. So FI at the end is the best place to start. Keep an eye on Eclipse Fi. We chose to go on quite a the initial route we took. We were focusing quite on DeFi and specific. We call them DeFi degens in specific ecosystems like Cosmos and Arbitrum and stuff. But we will be simplifying it quite a bit in the future to kind of like as we expand. We wanted to build a foundation, a base of mindshare to start to build the foundations of the protocol. But yeah, Eclipse Fi is like an interchain launch hub. If you like token launches, you like quality token launches, it's an amazing place to go. Especially if you like to, be long-term involved. That's even better place to be. But we've got some cool things coming over the next couple of months, and it's going to be an exciting. There's going to be some exciting Game of Thrones style plays happening, and I'm all for it. So let's have some fun. If you like to follow the action, then definitely follow closely.
Awesome. Very well said. Thank you so much for that. All the best, Simon, and bye for now.
Thanks.
All right, there you go. That was Simon from Eclipse Fi. Very nice guy. That was cool. And yeah, he's exactly right, eh? Westworld and of course Black Mirror especially. Everyone obviously always said Black Mirror was a closely depicted dystopian future, but man, that dystopian future keeps getting closer by the day, doesn't it? Man, can you believe we're at the end of 2023, 2024? Just around the corner. Interesting times. Thank you, folks, for listening here at the end of the show. Do please make sure you are subscribed to the Crypto Conversation in whatever podcast app you are using. But that is it for today. Thanks, team, and bye for now. This was the Crypto Conversation for Breathe New Coin. See ya.